Question 1, does this graph represent exponential growth, growth meaning it's increasing, or decay, decay meaning it's decreasing? And if you look here, it looks like it's increasing. So we're going to say that it's exponential growth. All right, question 2, what is the y-intercept? Where does it cross the y-axis? Well, here's your y-axis and it crosses right here. That's pretty simple, it crosses at 2. Question 3, now we're going to get into some vocabulary here. What is the equation of its horizontal? Okay, horizontal means you're going this direction from left to right, like you're looking at the horizon from left to right. And then you have this word asymptote. Asymptote is kind of like, to put it in kid-friendly form or a kid-friendly definition, pretend like there's an invisible line that this graph is approaching or sitting on. And if you look here, it looks like this graph is sitting right here on that dotted line that I have, right? And if you look, it looks like it's sitting on where it crosses the y-axis at 1. And so since it crosses the y-axis, we say that the horizontal asymptote, or that invisible line that the graph is approaching, is y equals 1. All right, let's look at 4. What is f of 1? Now kids, if you're getting confused with this f of x notation, start off with a given. Start off with this every time. F of x equals y. If I write that down and then take what is given to me in the problem and write that underneath it, it will tell you what you have. And if you look in this problem, they're telling you that x equals 1. Okay, so if the x part of the coordinate equals 1, the question is asking, what is the corresponding y value that goes with it that I could plug in here to this purple question mark that would hit the graph? So if x equals 1, that means you go over 1 on the x-axis right here. How far up would I need to go in the y to hit the graph? Well, I would go up 1, 2, 3, 4. And so my answer would be 4. And so that's just asking you to find the missing component that goes with this 1 to make a coordinate that hits the graph. All right, so let's apply this same technique to question 5. Let's clean this up here. Question 5. What is the approximate value of x if f of x equals 6? Well, since I have some space underneath here, I'm going to write what I should start with. F of x equals y. I'm going to circle what I have. Okay, they're telling me that this time they're telling me that the y component is 6. And they're asking me, what is the value of x this time? So if I go up 6 in the y direction, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So if I go up this far in the y direction, how far to the right or to the left would I need to go from the origin here to get to a point on the graph? Well, we know the point is right here. So how far to the right would I have to go in order to hit that graph? Well, I would go 1, and it looks like a half. So if I go 1.5 to the right, that would be the missing part of this coordinate. And check it out, if I go 1.5 to the right, and then I go 6 up, because 6 is my y, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Notice I hit the graph. So my answer to number 5 is 1.5. That's all it's asking. So when you see this functional notation like this, they're asking you to find a missing component that'll make a coordinate that hits the graph. Okay. Question 6, what is the range? Now, if you forget how to differentiate the difference between domain and range, we talk about using this saying called Dr. XY ID. And if you write Dr. XY ID and split that up, it will tell you that D stands for domain, which is talking about the x values, and R stands for range, which means we're talking about the y values. Ask yourself this question. How far in the y direction does this graph travel? Now we're going to pretend like it has arrows here. I should have put arrows on the end. So let's do this. Let's pretend like this graph starts somewhere. Where do you think this graph starts in the y direction? So if I look in the y direction here, where does it start? It looks like it starts at 1 and goes up forever. Now we talked about here, if you remember this word asymptote, that is the line that the graph approaches But to be honest with you, it never touches that line. It means it's never going to actually be 1. It's going to start at 1, but not include it, so it's going to be an open circle there, and it's going to go up in the y direction forever. So I know it can't be A because we're talking about x values. It can't be B. And if you tell me it's C, you're telling me that it includes 1. It doesn't include 1 because it's approaching 1, but it never gets there. And you're telling me it stops at 8. Well, if I were to put points here and put 2 closed circles maybe, but that's not the case. And so if you look at letter D, it's saying start at a value greater than 1 and go in the y direction forever. And so our answer is D. Okay, we're looking at the C questions. We skipped the B questions. We threw those out. So let's look at the C questions. Does this graph represent exponential growth? Growth meaning it's looking like this and going up, or decay, it's decreasing. And if you look here, it's increasing, so we say it's exponential growth. What is the equation of the horizontal? We said horizontal is like looking at the horizon from left to right. And asymptote is the line that the graph is approaching. So this time I'm going to read it from right to left. So if I read it from this direction here and I'm looking and I'm looking and I'm looking, what line does it look like it crosses? Now we're looking for look right here, we're looking for a line that looks like that. And if I were to draw a line that looks like that, what value of y is this yellow line? Well, it is 0 because 0 is right here. So our horizontal asymptote is 0. Now, if that's kind of confusing you want to kind of keep it kid-friendly, pretend like the asymptote is where the graph starts, but it never touches. So this graph starts at 0, but it never touches 0. It's going to be above it. It'll be any number greater than 0, but not including it. Question 3. Here's another f of x problem. What is f of 6? So I'm going to start with my given, f of x equals y. I'm going to write down what they have in the problem, f of 6. They're asking, what is that? What is f of 6? Let's fill out our parts here. They're telling me that x is 6. So the x component of the coordinate is 6. They're asking, what is this missing y value? So let's go up to our graph here. If I go over 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, how far up in the y direction will I need to travel in order to hit this graph? Now look over here, they're counting by, what are they counting by over there? Looks like they're counting by 20s. So let's see what we're here. 20, 40, 60. It looks like you're going to go up 60. So the missing component is 60. So be careful, make sure you look at your intervals. See what the axes are counting by. The x is counting by 1s, but the y, it's counting by 20s. So our answer to 3 is 60. Let's clean this up a little bit here. So look at question 4. There's the bell. Seems like every time I do a recording. What is the approximate value of f of x equals 30? Write your given, f of x equals y. Circle what you have. I have the y value of 30 this time, so my y value is 30. Question is asking, what is the corresponding x value that goes with it? All right, so I'm going to go up to 30. Here's 30, and the y-axis, I'm going to go all the way across. So how far, if I start at the origin, how far to the right do I need to travel on the x-axis to hit that graph right here if I go up 30? Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If I go over 5 and up 30, boom, I would hit the graph. So my answer to number 4 is 5. Number 6, what is the domain? Now if you go back to Dr. XYID, these bells are killing me. All right, let's go back. Dr. XYID. They're talking about domain. We're looking at the x values this time. Here's a really good or easy way to remember this. If you have arrows on the left of the graph, so that means this graph's going to go this way forever. And if you have arrows on the right of the graph, which means it's going to go this way forever, it is going to touch the x values. If I extend this graph forever, it's going to touch all real solutions. So all real, we'll say all real x values. All real x values. Number 7. Let's clean this up a little bit here. Number 7. For what interval? An interval usually, and in kid-friendly form we could say, or kid-friendly definition, for what interval between what two numbers does this function approximately equal 50? Okay, so it equals 50. If you go back to y equals, our y is our answer. So they're telling you in this problem that if y equals 50, so we're going to go up to 50, here's 50 right here, and we're going to draw a line. Between what two values of x does y equal 50? Well, let's look here. It looks like it's in between 5 and 6. So our answer, how do we show between 5 and 6? Right here, between 5 and 6. Here's our last set. Does this graph represent exponential growth? We said growth looks like this, or decay. Now if you look here, it's decaying in this part, or this time. It's starting at a very high number and it is decreasing rapidly, so we say that's decay. What is the y-intercept? Where it crosses the y-axis, or y-axis right here. That would be at 100. What is the equation of the horizontal? We said horizontal is this direction, so we're going to try to draw a line that, I guess you could say, again, kid-friendly form, what line could I draw that this graph is approaching, or that the graph is sitting on? And it looks like it's approaching 20. And since our line that we drew crosses the y-axis, we say y equals 20. And then our last problem, what is the approximate value of f of 50? Let's use that little trick here. We'll do this off to the side. F of x equals y. Start with your given, and then apply what you have in the problem here. F of 50 equals what? That's what the question is asking. Circle what you have. They tell you that x is 50, and they're asking you, what's the missing y part that will make this coordinate? Alrighty, let's go over to 50. There's 25, 50, so if I go 50 in the x, how far up in the y direction will I need to go in order to hit the graph? And look at your intervals. We're not counting by ones, we're counting by 10. So you go 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. So it looks like my missing component is 50. There's our answer, 50.